I speak Italian better than that.
Yeah.
Buca di beppo, people.
God,
right?
there we go.
The Beppio. Pinocchio.
Pinocchio.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Sounds Italian. It is Italian.
Yes.
Kind of.
Aren't you supposed to bring us back in?
Oh,
They're
hi.
Too crazy. People
Hi, I'm
just
so
yakking
sorry.
away.
You guys are listening to Trending SCV. I'm Sonia Schmidt.
I'm Joe Messina.
We should get right into our guests. So we don't
Yeah,
get,
that probably would be a good
get
idea.
yelled
What
at.
do you think?
Who do we have sitting next to us here?
You're going to make me read this thing?
I am.
Hold on.
Uh-oh, there it goes.
Yeah, don't
Here
you
we-
love when it does that? Rachel Doherty joins us from ROWI Teen, and ROWI is a programs that are dedicated to assist teenagers 12 to 18. Listen, I know a lot of 30-year-olds that are teenagers, if you know what I'm saying.
I guess.
Yeah, right. And their families to promote positive emotional and behavioral health. So glad to have you here again.
Thanks for having me back.
What is positive, emotional, and whatever he said, health?
From my perspective, positive emotional and behavioral health is learning how to manage just life coming at you, right? And that's, I think, the hardest part of anything is we can choose these different paths in life of negatively coping with these life events that are coming whether we want them to or not, or positively embracing the emotions and coping with them in a behavioral way that's not destructive.
Right. Now, some school of thought says, "Oh, these kids are babies. They don't have anything to be stressed out about." What would you say to that, please?
I would say absolutely not. And they're also processing it from their worldview, their scope, their developmental understanding of it. So to them, friendship dissolving is the end of the world for them. Especially socialization is so important for them. So these things that seem minor to us, well, put yourself back in their shoes, right? And everything did seem like a big deal. So I think we unintentionally invalidate the kids
Absolutely.
by saying things like that.
Absolutely. Now, I know, let's see. I know it's probably not politically correct, but I'm going to ask it anyhow. Are there problems that you're seeing emotionally with girls that you're not seeing with boys and vice versa? Or are there...
I think it presents differently because of how we're socialized, especially in Western cultures. So a lot of times for boys, they're told, you can't be sad, but you can be angry, right? And girls are typically told, well, you can be everything but angry. So then what happens is we either stuff our emotions and everything's fine, or it comes out as anger. But either way, we're not in touch with really what's going on. So it does present differently. Teenagers, though, it's more similar, where depression oftentimes presents as anger. So they don't know why their kid is so mad.
That's
but they're really sad.
True. It presents as anger, and people don't understand them. And particularly in girls, if they display anger, then they're wrong.
Yes.
They're punished for it.
Yes.
The same, we were talking about boys earlier, being sad. I have this very sensitive grandson. He's a tough guy too, but he's more in touch. If he sees somebody fall down, he's going to see if they're okay before he laughs at them.
Which is that empathy.
Right.
Yeah.
He's empathetic. My other grandson, he's going to laugh if you've broken your hip on the ground. That's his go-to place.
Yeah.
Now, you wanted to talk about summer, mental health over the summer. Why does that change? What is that? How does it change?
Yes. So, unfortunately, as much as our kids say, "Oh, I can't wait to sleep in, and I can't wait to not have school every day and have the structure," and that's the worst thing that could happen for them. Look at COVID, right? They lost that structure, and everybody kind of tanked. So, unfortunately, over summer, we'll see things flare up because now they have sleeping in more, right? So now what's the point of getting out of bed? Well, why am I even going to take a shower at this point, right?
No structure.
There's no structure. They kind of lose their daily routines, and we know that activities of daily living, or what we call ADLs, are very important for mental health, right? Are you getting up? Are you taking a shower? Are you getting your basic needs? Are you doing the tasks you're supposed to do? And are you active in your life, right? Which is ultimately what we're doing. And then, unfortunately, when they have nothing with school to focus on, whether it's friendship drama, school stress, their thoughts come back to them, right? So now they'll either get into trouble or they'll just isolate on the phone, whatever it is, and they're not dealing with those stressful feelings. And then if they are, that's typically where they start tanking, because they go, all these thoughts keep coming back. I have a lot of head noise. I don't know what's going on. But they've actually been running from this whole time. Or being distracted with school.
Busy keeps you from having to be in touch with it.
Exactly. So unfortunately, when they lose all that, we see things flare up.
Well, how do you summer programs? are so expensive, and I'm sure parents have to continue to work
Yes.
just because the kids are off.
Yes.
Do you have to depend on the kid to keep that schedule? Do you help them make a schedule so that their life stays on track?
Well, and that's the tricky part is ideally it would be great if you tell your kid, hey, I need you to get up at this time. But if there's no one to kind of push them to follow through, they have to internally have that skill and the motivation to do it, which often just developmentally is not there. Right. And then they're staying up later. So it is hard. And that's why, our hours were the same. The only thing with our summer schedule is instead of starting at 8, we start at 9. But it gives them that consistency because it is hard because they're typically not going to self-regulate. And that's why we teach them. That's why the school setting's so good.
And so what sort of things do you do there?
So when they come in, typically when they have school, they would do schoolwork from 8 to 10. So instead, they'll come in at 9, and typically we'll do like a physical activity group to kind of get them up, get them started, get them active for their day, and then we jump right into our therapy groups. So whether it's CBT, DBT, which is coping skills, whatever it may be, a lot of social skills, which is also very important for over summer. They lose that connection, and that's when the depression starts coming in.
Sure.
So we just jump right back in and give them that structure maintained. They go home at 3:30 if they're in PHP, and it's then they have the rest of their day. And then they're expected to wake up early again and come back in, so it also keeps the structure of, no, you need to go to bed on time.
Is it all full for the whole full summer, or is it just for a couple of months?
So we keep going. So we're nonstop.
Okay,
We're barely even closed. I think Memorial Day, Christmas Day, and Thanksgiving Day. So it's that consistency, which is great, and they really thrive on that.
Very good.
So you talk about coping skills, and she likes to make fun of me because I always go back to, you talk about the stuff they're dealing with today. We were doing atomic bomb drills in the 70s. I'm sure we had things to deal with too. But how do you strengthen their character? Because being on a school board, and I was with the youth project for 10 years, and my biggest pet peeve is we almost embrace their fears instead of teaching them how to deal with their fears. We almost tell them it's okay not to be able to work through instead of saying, no, many people have been through this. Let's help you work through it too.
Yes.
And I'm seeing more, though, with our counselors. I see more and more of, that's okay, we'll work through this, and it seems like it's such a long process. What's the difference? Well, why were coping skills different in the 50s, the 70s, and whatever we are now in the new century?
I think it's kind of a complex issue, but it's teaching them how to be resilient and manage. Because whether it's an atomic bomb drill, right, whether it's whatever's, a breakup, whatever, it's how am I managing my responses to this thing? And it's the resiliency with that character building is so important. If you can be scared and do it anyway, right? You can have anxiety and still be able to sit in class and do your presentation. You can feel sad and still get up and take a shower. And that's that important skill of opposite action that we teach them of, you can feel like this and still do it. And action precedes motivation. So that's how you're kind of going to light that wet match of depression, of anxiety, whatever it may be, to keep moving forward. And then that's really the life skill that comes into it is how do we manage these things?
So Tom Kirsting, who is on the show, he's been studying the effect of smartphones and social media on kids for over 25 years now. And one of the things he says is that's their world.
Yeah.
That little battery-powered device is their world. When it shuts down, when Facebook shuts down, he said, think about it, they shut down.
Yeah.
You got to get them away from it. You've got to get them away from that and understand how to deal with life. And, again, I'm going to joke and say in the 70s, we didn't have a smartphone to find out where everybody was. We got in a bike and rode through the neighborhood and find out who was
I'm
where
not
and
so
how.
sure everybody in the 70s was all that healthy as he's
I don't think so either.
But yeah, I know he likes to have that fantasy.
Okay, I'm not going to go through the philosophy of we didn't have the same mass shootings we had back then that we have
But that's
today.
not necessarily.
We didn't have boys acting out as much back
You also
then as
had
we
prayer
do
in
today.
school. You had 2 parents in the house. There were many
And
other
we allowed
things
boys
that you
to
had.
blow off steam when
they
were
got to
in
play
school.
longer, and what they're sounding like, what ROWI sounds like they're doing, is giving them that schedule away from their smartphones. They're giving them something to do.
We don't allow
They're
any
showing-
phones. As
There
soon as
you
they come in,
go,
they put their phones
That's
away, and they have
perfect.
to
Yeah,
learn
that's
how do you
How do they deal with
that? And then they usually
help them
I mean, I can leave my
self-regulate.
phone over
Yep.
there, really?
Yep,
Yeah.
they throw fit the first kind of week, and then they don't even think about it, and then they go, "Oh, I
Exactly.
actually didn't rely on it as much."
We
as I
saw it in
wanted
the
to."
junior high schools here in town. We started taking the phones, not taking their phones away. They had to shut them off, put them in their backpack. And I don't know if I told you this last time you were here. The difference between junior high and high school is when you go to the junior highs, they're actually interacting with each other now.
Yeah.
They're talking with each other. They're dealing with each other. Where at the high schools, I can see a group of kids together. Now one of them is talking to each other. I would be surprised if they're texting
Yeah.
right there.
They are sitting right next to their friend texting.
Yeah, look at your buddy over there, what he's wearing.
Well, and I remember when you spoke to our CEO, Dr. Candice Feinberg, she had said that story about how her son, I think, was at a baseball game and said, "Oh, there's his girlfriend," but he didn't have his phone to text her to say hi, and
Isn't that
it
something?
does. We do. Not force them, but because they don't have their phones, we do a lot of social skills. That's why the groups are so great, because they learn from each other and they learn how to interact and just have a conversation. So we do everything together. We eat lunch together. We
That's great.
have all the groups together, and it's interesting to see them go back to school and then come back and say, a lot of people could use this program.
Wow.
Yes. So that's really
gonna
interesting to
ask
hear
that.
them
The
reflect
next time
on
you
that.
come, I do want
Yeah.
to talk about that.
Yeah.
They start doing it at the high schools where they have groups that get together for lunch.
Yeah.
And they get those outlier kids that really aren't interacting with other groups as much. So they
Yeah.
get them together and bring them in for lunch, and they build new friendships.
Yeah.
How do they
It's a huge
contact you?
protective factor. So they can go ahead and our website is the best way to reach us. It's a ROWI Teen, ROWITEEN, like teenager.com. Our Santa Clarita, we have multiple locations, but our Santa Clarita, if you Google ROWI Teen SCV, it'll pop right up, and you can give us a call, and we do free assessments with our program director, Lindsay Brazili. And
Yay, I like it.
yeah. Thanks for having me back.
Thank
I'd
you.
like to
Please come
again.
back.
Yeah,
I
I
love
will.
the
We
topic.
can talk about the other stuff.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to talk. I'm having trouble with my voice.
He's got a frog in his voice, in his throat, he says. I don't know what that even means.
Well, I was hungry.